What's going on? This is Crystal Taylor, the owner of Fitness is Not a Game, and you are here on Fitness Friday when we are going to talk where we are going to, well, that's a whole bunch of no, where we are going to talk about a real deal, serious conversation. Try not to make it all, down, but we need to talk about how we navigate our relationships during menopause. If you're here with me now, say hey, let me know that you're here. Let me know where you're watching from. If you're catching us on replay, do me a favor and type replay in the chat. But I want to talk about this because menopause, luckily, is now a topic that more people are starting to talk about. I think women, we're just fed up with it being like a taboo conversation because it's not taboo. This is our lives, and we need some help navigating this time point blank in the period because the majority of the women, I would say almost every woman that I've talked to about menopause has said that they felt ill prepared. If that is you, let me know in the chat. If you felt ill prepared, say me too. Because I know I was, right? And I want to talk about this because I've always said my favorite part of menopause. Somebody like favorite part of menopause. That don't even almost sound right. But hold on, hear me out. My favorite part of menopause has been the ability to set boundaries. No has become my favorite word. And I was never that way. I'm an extreme nurturer, uh, people pleaser. Well, I'm still a nurturer. I used to be a people pleaser. Huge differences, right? Um, and it used to be difficult for me to say no. But I realized that I got to the point where I was like, that's not serving me. So, no, no. Mm-mm. And it's not said with malice at all. It is literally saying no to something and somebody else so I can say yes to me. Let me know if anybody feels that. But what I know is that that in itself can change our relationships. And when I say relationship, I think a lot of times people immediately think about the romantic relationships, but we're not just talking about our romantic relationships. We're talking about our relationships with our friends, our relationships with our children, our relationships with our coworkers. A lot is going on with us right now where we just are like, no. And it can impact how, and not just saying no, but yes, saying no can impact those relationships. And I'll tell you all something. Back in 2016, I had a therapist then. I was going to a different therapist than I go to now. But she told me, then she said, Crystal, you're premenopausal. And I was like, I still have my cycle, guess it's normal, whatever. She was like, no. She said, a lot of times there's this, is it misperception, misconception, I think it's perception, misperception that menopause starts with the hormone changes, like that we know of, right? When our cycles change and all that. But she said it's psychological first. And she said, and I'm listening to your conversation, and you are very set on what you do and don't want, what you will and won't tolerate. She's like, that's the beginning of menopause. And that always sat with me. But because I wasn't having any other symptoms, right? The three symptoms we knew about, and I sort of blew it off. But as it kept going, I was like, that's what she's talking about, right? And I saw this video a few months ago, and she was sort of there was a doctor on there breaking it down about how the changes that we're going through is not just psychological, it's our hormones impacting how we think and how we respond. So we think about hormones as it relates to the lady parts, but the hormones that are changing in our bodies are changing in so many different ways, right? So it's impacting our mood, hence the mood swings. A lot of women are struck with it impacting their libido and not in a good way, right? And it's unfortunate that a lot of women already felt as if they didn't have a high libido, and now it's worse, right? So imagine if you are in a romantic relationship where your libido may have already been suspect. And now because your hormones are fluctuating, it's even lower. And you got nerve to have mood swings. Hmm. How can that not impact a romantic relationship? Right? It was probably already a struggle, but now it's getting worse. And the sad part about it is that by the time we realize we're going through menopause, that we're perimenopausal, we've been in it for a while. And it takes all of these other things that happen, all these other symptoms, joint pain, uh, difficulty sleeping, hair loss, itchy skin, hot flashes, night sweats, gut issues. It takes all these other things for us to be like, oh, wait a minute. And a lot of times women don't even realize it then until they say, oh, my cycle's been acting funny. That's when most women realize that they're perimenopausal. Let me know if I'm hitting on any of this, right? So that means that you could be going through this for months or years, and it's impacting your relationships because you don't even realize what's going on with your body. And if you don't realize it, then how can you communicate it to the people around you to say, hey, I just need a little grace? Or to say, hey, this is what's going on. I'm going to take these steps to get a little help. It's so unfortunate that, and this is my theory. It was, I said it as a theory a while ago, and I've been hearing other um, experts talk about it, and they agree that menopause is part of the reason, I'm not saying the only, but part of the reasons why so many couples experience separations and divorce around this time. So when you have a woman whose hormones are changing, libido is possibly going down, moods are changing, plus she's setting boundaries like crazy, but it's not being communicated, right? All of those things on top of your spouse or your boo around you trying to figure you out. You don't know what's going on. It's head buzz, all of this stuff. And it's so unfortunate. And then on top of it, like I said, remember the setting the boundaries and the resolve. I was like, you know what? I no longer have to take whatever this is, right? The patience that she had before may have been going out the door. So the lack of menopause was allowing her to be way more patient than she could be now. And we blame it on menopause as if it's a bad thing, right? But not necessarily. Not necessarily. It could just be highlighting the things that should have been in place anyway, right? But it's not just your romantic relationship. I'll tell y'all a real story for me. And I just realized this recently, like a couple days ago. But a few years ago, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think if had I quit my corporate job yet. I think I may have just quit my corporate job, and I had taken on, you know, uh, following this mission that I have, this purpose that I have of helping, right? When it comes to health and fitness. So now I'm running a business, still running my household, cooking every night, doing all the things. I'm doing webinars and free trainings in the evening, but I'm rushing to get dinner done prior to that, and then I'm just doing all the things. And then one day I was just like, no, I can't keep doing all of this. Not when I have three other able-bodied people in this house who all know how to cook, who can be responsible for themselves and for us. So I finally, and some woman needs to hear this. And yes, I love my brothers. I know y'all put in work too. Not taking anything from y'all, but I got to talk to my ladies right now. I finally had to say I don't have to do it all. If you want to eat, you can make sure that you eat, and us too. This is our home. I ain't seen nothing in the contract when I became a wife and or mother that said I was responsible for everybody's meals, for the rest of my life. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey. And I just had to realize like it's okay for me to not only set my own boundaries, but it's also teaching them and responsibility. And that's all of them, right? To be responsible and play a role in this household. So that was, honestly, I think that was something that was easily accepted. I would say easily accepted. I really thought I was going to get some pushback. Um, hey, Brother Dexter, yes, I'm glad that y'all listening together because this is something, and that was something we'll talk about. That you and your wife are listening together. But I was happy that I didn't get pushback from my family when I said that. And I think it's because part of it's because I said I'm an extreme nurturer. That's one of my love languages. I like doing stuff for people. I like to see them happy, and cooking is one of my love languages too. So for me to ask, they knew that I needed help. They knew that I was tired. They knew that I was getting worn down. And they knew that I was telling the truth. That's not my job. It's not my job to make sure that everybody eats all day, every day. Because as a parent, as a mother, I had always said my job was to make them highly independent people because I'm not always going to be here. And I shouldn't expect them to figure that stuff out after they leave my household, right? But it did impact. Um, let's just be honest about it. The expectations of people stepping up and doing things, it did impact relationships because I'm like, I can't do all the things. And they had gotten comfortable with me doing all the things. So now there's this, why is she all of a sudden coming down on us? And I'm not. It's just I hadn't come down on y'all soon enough. Right. So it was just like, and now I have that battle of like, I'm just asking for help. It's unfair for you not to see that I need help. But again, that's setting that boundary, planting my feet. Because there were times before where it had been like, oh yeah, well I don't want any of them to be unhappy because it's my job to make them happy all the time, even at the detriment of my happiness. And I finally got to the point I was like, what I'm asking for is fair. And if we gotta buckle up and knuckle up to square this thing out, then let's do it. Because I know it's going to happen. It's going to benefit all of us in the long run. Seems like it's benefiting me because I'm doing less, but it's benefiting them because they're learning, right? Now, when it comes to work, I know a whole bunch of folks now, a whole bunch of ladies. They at work and they're like, that's not part of my job description. I don't get paid for that anymore. Well, I've never gotten paid for that. So I'm no longer doing this. You're not going to keep getting free labor out of me. And when you had been at work before and you're like, somebody needs to do it, I'll do it. Sure, I'll take it in. Da 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 da. All these things we volunteered for, all of the extra work that we had taken before, we ask ourselves now again, like, hey, does this serve me? And we are now at that point where if the honest answer is no, then guess what? It's not getting done at all. That impacts our relationships because the people who have been around us and they've gotten so accustomed to us jumping, 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 like, what's wrong with her? She's not doing it anymore. Maybe she's this, maybe she's that. But again, that's when the conversation plays a huge role. I can't tell you, last year, I got to the point I realized I was apologizing to my family a lot. It was almost like back in my PMS days. Maybe, ladies, if it's for you, if this, and thank you, Brother Dexter. I see we on it. I didn't even see that comment, but we on it. Brother Dexter said, no, for men, we do not read minds. There we go. And that's what I'm saying. We have to, but what I was saying at the beginning, Brother Dexter, is that sometimes We don't even know what's going on either. And that's where the conflict can be, because y'all don't read minds and we don't either, right? Nobody reads minds. So the onus is for all of us to communicate whatever we need. But when we're going through menopause, when we're going through all of these hormonal fluctuations, and then on top of the hormonal fluctuations that are impacting our sleep, which is impacting our moods, which is impacting our libido, it's impacting all the things, right? But we don't even know that that's what it is to be able to communicate it. So then when we finally understand, so this is okay, I'm gonna back up. For my men, I encourage you, if your woman is 40 plus anything, give some grace, because this is different from our monthly cycle. And that's a shame because I'm getting emotional and I don't mean to. But this is different. You know, for all these years, y'all know around a certain time of the month, she might get a little grumpy. Let me stay out of her way, blah, 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 blah. This is different. There's no rhyme or reason to it. And there's so many things that are happening. And not just so many things that are happening, so many things that are happening that we don't even realize that are menopause related, that stress us out and they scare us, right? Just being completely transparent and honest about my story. I noticed about a year and a half ago that I started having what I consider to be anxiety attacks. All of a sudden, I was getting, it was like sensory overload, and I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. And it scared me. So it made me pull back from certain things. That in itself can impact the relationship when it's hard to sit around my friends like I used to, because there are too many conversations going on and I can't take it. So now I'm looked at as if I'm acting funny, possibly because everybody's here and I'm over there. But I'm over there trying to figure out what is going on with me, right? It's scary when all of a sudden you realize that words are getting stuck in your head, like literally stuck. You can hear a word, you know how many syllables, you can see some of the letters. You try to describe the word and it will not come out. That is scary. So it makes you not want to communicate, because you don't want to feel dumb or crazy because you can't even get out what you're thinking. So now you looked at as, oh, now she's not talking to nobody. Now she's acting funny. She don't really talk like she used to anymore. These are the things that I'm saying are that are happening that's very different from our monthly cycles. And they're not talked about frequently enough. So a lot of times we are suffering in silence, and our relationships, that's what I say, romantic, family, friends, professional, they start changing, possibly suffering from it because I don't understand it. So I can't even communicate it to you. So that's why I'm having these conversations and talking about the things that could happen, so that hopefully somebody is recognizing it, whether it's a woman who's recognizing that she's going through it herself, or it's a man like Brother Dexter who's like, wow, that's what's going on with my wife, to recognize so that a conversation can be had. Because we do have to communicate it. Say, hey, this is what I experienced. This is what's going on. And when I noticed, the first time I realized I was having an anxiety attack was in October of 22. I was at an event. I was helping my friends vend. And all while I was working and vending, I was great. And they told me it was my break time, and I sat down, and it was just like, I could hear every conversation, all the music. Like it was just too much. So much so that I had to go sit in my car. I was like, what was that? I've never been that way. Typically, I would sit there and laugh at my friends and giggle, but I couldn't. Like they were all laughing, and I couldn't. And so I told my husband about it. I was like, that was weird. I've never had sensory overload like that. Fast forward to February of last year, February. We're in Egypt and we're going to the museum, and there were a lot of people outside, you know, crowded. And I sort of expected that because everybody's trying to get in. What I did not expect was that it was just as crowded inside as it was outside. I thought it was so crowded outside because they were like sort of like sprinkling people in, like let people get in and then we'll let some more in. That's what I thought. Walked in and it was just as crowded. I found myself backed up against a wall in tears because it was sensory overload again. But luckily, I had already shared that with my husband and he saw it and he's like, "Are you okay? Do you need to go outside?" But because we were with a group, we were sort of in the museum and I didn't want to make a scene. I said no. So what he did was he just stood in front of me and sort of shielded me to let me, and I'm standing there crying in a museum because I had to figure out how to get my nerves under control. And just like even right now, the words are playing around in my head. But these are conversations that need to be had so that the people around you can say, oh, this is what she's experiencing. Let me give some grace. Let me ask how I can support. Not as soon. Y'all hear that? Since brother Dexter want to come in and give a note from men, I'm gonna give a note from women. Don't come in just trying to fix. I know y'all like to be fixers, but ask how how you can help if you can. And if she says there's nothing you can do, or she does not accept your suggestion, be okay with that. Receive that. Ladies, I got you. But I'm just saying, when we're having this conversation, because I don't like when I look at the numbers of how many, you know, relationships were dissolving around this time, it's sad. It's sad. When I hear the stories of people who like, oh, I just don't talk to that person anymore. I stopped talking to that person. I stopped talking to that person. Relationships are changing. Maybe they needed to change. Maybe they did. Because I'll be honest. Oh, I will clean slate, but I did that before menopause, and it's worse now. Not even worse. I don't even call it worse. If the energy does not serve me, I should have worn my shirt today. I have a shirt that says "Hella stingy with my energy," and that is facts. If the energy doesn't serve me, I remove it. And it's not out of malice. It is really out of protection for my energy. And that's okay. So when you ladies, when you realize you're going through these things, when you're experiencing these things, when you're feeling these things, it is up to you. The onus is on you to communicate that. To communicate that and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling today. Hey, this is what I'm experiencing today. Sometimes I can't people. And I had never really been that way before. But I'm so okay with it now. Like, nah, don't feel like it. Oh well, right? But we have to take care of ourselves. And taking care of ourselves, when people talk about self-care a lot, they talk about the manicures, the pedicures. That's cool. Facials, massages, that's cool. But self-care is also being in tune with what you need emotionally as well. So that is setting those boundaries. That is okay with, but still, of course, as I say, we have our hormonal spikes that can cause mood swings. So if you catch yourself being a little snippy, make sure you apologize, communicate what you really wanted to say in a kinder way, right? Because things are changing with us. And if you know that, like, sometimes, we can have the best intentions. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to let y'all go because I feel like I could talk about this all day because this stuff is real, right? But there are a couple things that you can do to help regulate those things. Exercise and, of course, moving your body. That alone helps reduce cortisol, increase your adrenaline, your dopamine, those feel good things, right? So that helps to regulate your mood. Sleeping, that helps as well, right? Um, Being mindful of what you eat, they impact you as well. But sometimes you can do all of that and still need more assistance. I'll be honest. I think I shared with you all last year. I started getting hormone treatment. I had to. I was doing everything else they told me to do, everything, and I was just still struggling. The main thing, boy, I call it menopause brain. The forgetting of the words, baby. I play mind games every day. I start my morning with Sudoku. I play words with friends. So I'm real big on keeping my mind active, but I still kept losing my words. And one of my doctor friends, Dr. Mia Cowan, she said, your hormones are off. I will almost bet your testosterone is low because she's an OBGYN. And I was like, huh? And so I looked into it. I went to the doctor. I asked him to test my hormone level. And guess what? Yep, she was right. So I started taking the hormone treatment. And I was so resistant to doing any type of hormones because you always heard about hormones. I'm like, no, I haven't had any type of synthetic hormone in my body in 20, my son will be 25. Wow, in a couple weeks. So it's been 26, 27 years since I've had any type of synthetic hormone. But it turns out that these hormones that she was referring to, they're bioidentical. So they're made from plants, right? So I got them and I've been on them since October. And guess what? I don't struggle with my words anymore, right? That's how I know when it's time for me to get my next dosage because when my words start getting stuck, I'm like, whoa, testosterone is dropping. Let me, hopefully, my doctor be calling me soon, tell me it's time for my other dosage, right? But sometimes you got to seek help. And of course, I mentioned my therapist. I go to my therapist every 2 weeks because sometimes we just have to talk things out, right? Just get it out because we don't even understand what's going on. Dexter, brother Dexter says, wild yam cream is big now. The hormones that I use, they're made from yams. Yep, they're created from yams. So yeah, I'm gonna let y'all go, but I felt it on my heart to talk about because I was like, okay, I know I want to talk about something with menopause because I want to make sure I invite y'all, especially for my women and even the husbands or partners of women who are possibly going through menopause. I'm hosting a free menopause summit, Menopause Unplugged, Real Talk, Real Changes on Monday. So 3 hour summit on Zoom from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central where I brought four amazing female doctors together to talk about hormones. So I have Dr. Mia, who I just mentioned, who's an OBGYN and an intimacy expert. I have Dr. Rashida, who's going to talk about, she's a hormonal expert. I'm gonna have Dr. LaFerre. She talks about using food as medicine. She's a functional medicine physician. And then we have Dr. Michelle, who does holistic health. So they're all talking about different ways to approach menopause, to minimize these symptoms. All you got to do is go to menopauseunplugged.com to get your space. And I knew I wanted to talk about something menopause related to make sure that you all got that invitation. And there were so many other things I could have talked about, so many things could have talked about, but I thought it was important to have the conversation about the relationships because I know way too many. Um, and I've had people reach out to me when I first started talking about menopause in general. And then, especially when I started talking about getting the hormones, I had people inbox me and was like, hey, I never even thought about it, but I got to do something because my relationship is struggling. My marriage is struggling. And I know it's my menopause. And people are embarrassed to say it, don't want to talk about it, sad, whatever it is. And so I've always said that I've accepted that this is my purpose. My purpose is to be a vessel to provide information for my people, but especially women who could be struggling in silence so that they'll know that they're not alone and to provide some ideas on how you can get some help and some support during this time because it's rough. It's rough. And it lasts 8 to 12 years. It's rough. It's rough. So, ladies, you are not alone. You're not. You're not. You're not. And these doctors are absolutely amazing. And for my fellas, I need to go back and find the video with the doctor explaining the actual hormones and how they're changing and how they're changing our bodies. Because I was like, I feel like every man needs to see this too. Needs to see this too. That to know that we're not just changing out of spite or anything like that. We can't even help it. The changes are here and they're real. So we're trying to adapt too, right? So yeah, so let me get myself off here for the boy. Whew, see, damn hormone. And what's crazy is another hormonal change for me during menopause. Whenever I get emotional, now my dang on eyebrows sweat. Go figure. The things we go through. But I hope y'all, and thank you for dropping the link in the chat. You're very welcome, Brother Dexter. But Menopause Unplugged, it will be Monday, um, 11 to 12 Central, 11 to 2 Central, for female doctors who are going to break menopause down. And it's real talk, real change. And I say that because even though they are doctors, they are still women who've gone through it, have patients who've gone through all the good things. And we're going to have real conversation. This is not doctor talk at all. This is real conversation between women about what's going on with us and how we can, it always sounds cheesy, but how we can thrive during this time as opposed to just surviving. All right. So, all right. Thank y'all for hanging out with me. I hope to see all of you on Monday. Make sure that you share it out with anybody that you know is struggling and could use the information and use the support so that we can get through this thing and be happy. So, all right, y'all. Y'all have a fantabulous Friday. If you're going out in these streets, please be safe because I just want you healthy. I want you happy. And I want you here. All right, y'all.